Hey, good morning, everybody.
Hey, good morning.
This would be a day that the chamber does not want to put on the commercials regarding visiting Georgia. We hope to give them a better day sometime this weekend. First and foremost, we appreciate you coming in. For those of you who don't have the agenda, we're going to go through a series of different, I'll say, comments from the agencies and then some public comment. I want to hand it off to Chairman Cantrell and open us up in prayer, please, before we get going into the agenda. Thank you.
It's 22. Okay, let's pray together. Lord, we do come to you today, thanking you that in spite of the rain and probably a challenging commute this morning for most of us, that we can rely on you today. And so we're asking you to give us wisdom as we look at what's best for Georgia and make decisions. And I just pray you'd guide the presentations today and just help us to be receptive to what we have to hear. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you. A couple of housekeeping items. For those of you who do not know, the Education Committee is meeting, well, subcommittee is meeting right now, and then the full committee was supposed to meet at 10. Unfortunately, I believe Chairman Dubnik is caught in what Waze is calling a 2-hour delay to the Capitol. Will Wade's caught in about an hour delay to the Capitol. And simultaneously, I was supposed to be chairing the Academic Innovation Committee right now. And this meeting, of course, takes a little bit of precedent. So we're going to go ahead, and we don't want to short this meeting. We want to give full attention to this meeting. But if I would ask for the speakers to be as pithy and I guess brevity, using Dr. Evans' word, would probably be the order of the day, if that's okay. For those of you who do not know, Chris Irwin apologizes. We've asked Chris, as Vice Chair of Education, to stay there, move some things along so at least we can get something going on that side. So Chris can't make it. And I believe Chairman Nix is online. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, great. This is being recorded because we do have a couple folks who are triple booked right now, and they're going to go ahead and pick this up later on. So if you have questions, or if you get questions from one of the committee members, please understand it wasn't a lack of interest in being here. It was truly just trying to accommodate X number of meetings on a committee day when I'm 100% sure all the chairmen didn't talk to each other about what time we were going to be doing different meetings. So with that stated, I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Department of Early Care and Learning, you're up.
Good morning. It's good to see you all, and I'm glad I wasn't stuck in traffic because that would have been very stressful. I got here early this morning, so no traffic for me. So it's good to see you all, and thank you for your continued support of DCAL. I do have a few qualitative updates on 3 specific subjects that I believe you requested, Mr. Chairman, and of course we'll go to the budget and answer any other questions that you might have. So on this first slide, I'm going to first talk about the infant and early childhood mental health updates on the next slide. And if we'll go to the next slide, this all really started in 2019 as a result of a House study committee, which was chaired by Katie Dempsey. And that study committee provided many recommendations on promoting awareness and improvements to infant toddler mental health throughout our state. The top 2 priorities from those recommendations are listed here. One is to establish state level leadership, and that included 2 components. One was a infant early childhood mental health director position, which is housed at DCAL, and that was hired in November of 2020. Her name is Laura Lucas, and I have to say she's doing a phenomenal job of leading this task force, which was also a recommendation of the study committee to create a task force of child serving agencies. They meet monthly. They've been convening since February of last year. And this, of course, includes members from DOE, DBHCD, DFACS, DCH, Department of Public Health, pediatricians, CHOA advocates. Everyone you would expect is at the table on a monthly basis, and they have accomplished quite a lot in the last year. If you look at the next slide, this is a list of what they've accomplished in just a year. And just in the interest of time, this could take me 15 minutes, but I'm going to try to highlight these pretty quickly. We have established through this task force the Georgia Association of Infant Mental Health, which is housed at Georgia State University. And this is really a chapter of a national organization that exists in 32 other states as well. And this really helps to create pathway for all levels of early childhood workforce to complete those early childhood mental health core competencies, which was a direct recommendation from the study committee. We have also supported the expansion of child-parent psychotherapy. This is an evidence-based trauma treatment for children birth through age 5 and their families. DCAL and DPH are co-funded this training throughout the state. And we've actually already received national recognition for doing this training through early childhood mental health services in Georgia to make them more accessible and expand those. A big thing that we heard about a lot, and I am not an expert on Medicaid, but this was a big win for the task force, was a Medicaid services chart for ages birth to 6. I think what they heard through the study committee and testimony, what we hear from a lot of providers, is that these services may exist, but providers do not know how to bill for them. And so in collaboration with DCH and DBHCD, a Medicaid services billing chart was created for these services, so providers know how to charge and bill for children birthed at age 6 and their families that are receiving these types of mental health services. We also funded through some of our federal funding, some regional trauma training and early child resiliency throughout the state. And this is really to build and expand our trauma-informed communities. And we worked with Resilient Georgia to do this. We also provided training to our birth to 5 workforce, and we will expand this year and currently are expanding that. We also provided training for DECAL's own infant and toddler specialist in 0 to 3. And this is really about early childhood, how early childhood provides a window of opportunity to support social and emotional health. And we will continue to expand that for our infant and toddler specialists that work directly with childcare teachers and providers as they educate and care for infant and toddlers in licensed childcare. The diagnostic classification, again, this is not my expertise, but I will tell you that our task force has done some work on this. So if you don't know, this is an age-appropriate diagnostic tool for accessing young children and their mental and developmental disorders. And we have sponsored 10 of the task force members to attend this clinical training. So this is all about really preparing those at the state level, those at the community level with training. We'll continue to do more training this year to promote the use of this tool as a best practice to identify any type of mental health or developmental disorders in young children. We have also conducted an early infant childhood mental health system analysis. We did this with Georgia State's Health Policy Center, and we released that in November of 2021. This analysis looks at heat maps, which reflect the current mental behavioral health services for the birth to 5 population in Georgia, which, as you can imagine, there aren't a whole lot of services throughout the state for this population. We also know that home visiting is a big topic and a big part of early learning and social emotional learning. And we have partnered with DPH to conduct a study to show how home visiting can support social emotional learning. And those results are not out yet. That study is not complete, but it should be the spring of 2022, so in the next few months. And then to, again, bring more awareness of what we mean by infant, toddler, social, emotional, and mental health, we created Children's Mental Health Week, and we began that in May of 2021, and we'll do that again this year. And that's really about bringing awareness, providing resources, especially to our childcare providers that serve these young children on a daily basis.
Commissioner Jacobs,
Yes,
I have a myriad of questions, but because of my comments about staying brief, if you don't mind, I want to hold those. And then would it be okay that we were to connect with you and maybe your staff either later this week or early next week, just for the spirit of time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And you would get better answers from Laura Lucas, our director.
Okay.
So
All right.
yes,
Great. Okay. Thank
we
you.
will make that connection.
All right.
Also on CAPS, if we'll go to the next slide, actually the next slide. If you'll remember, CAPS is our subsidy program in Georgia. It's our child care and parent services. It helps provide financial supports to low-income families as they work or participate in school. We serve 50,600 children thanks to the House's investment last year. This is funded by CCDF, which are federal dollars and state funds. And on a regular basis, this program costs about $280 million, and we spend about $5,600 per child on our CAPS program. If you look at the next slide, we've been able to make some improvements using some of our federal stimulus dollars, which I'll talk about next. But in May of 2021, we began ACCESS, which stands for Awarding Child Care Education Scholarship Supplements. This is funded through some of our SRSA dollars, and it's temporarily supporting families by paying the full cost of childcare. So when a family receives CAPS, they are responsible for a family fee, which is determined by their family size and their income, but they also may have to pay the difference between what CAPS pays and what the provider charges. And so using ACCESS, families will not pay any tuition related fees for childcare. And I will tell you that we've just conducted some focus groups with families, and they have said this is a lifeline. This savings of, on average, about $130 per month per child has allowed them to do other things like provide karate or save for a down payment. And so we have committed to paying for this through October of 2022 with our federal dollars, and we'll make a decision if we would like to continue this going forward with our federal dollars. Yes.
Real quick, has there been any conversation around using those dollars so maybe the mom or the dad could go take advantage of a Hope Career Grant, get a certification, and then at the same time, they know that they have childcare so they can do that, focus on getting a better skill, improving, where they're at from their career track? Any conversation inside?
Yes, there's a
Okay.
lot of conversation that's been going on for several years between DCAL and TCSG. We consider that our 2-gen approach to serving these families and helping them become self-sufficient. So more to come on that. We work directly with TCSG and their student navigators and their special pops and our CAPS family support folks to get to direct them to that. But more to come on that when we announce our final federal funding. So yes, that is absolutely on the top of my mind.
That's kind of like a movie trailer. You're getting me excited about the movie.
It hasn't been officially announced or decided yet, but that's a priority for me. I think, connecting these families that receive CAPS with TCSG is the right thing to do.
Okay.
Just given exactly what you said. So yes, you'll see more to come on that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. On the next slide, also using some of our federal dollars, we've actually been able to do a temporary expansion of CAPS. As I mentioned, on a regular basis, we serve 50,600. We have added 10,000 additional scholarships effective November 2021. And as you know, they have to go through the application process. So January 31st of this year, 4,800 additional children are actually using those scholarships. Now, in order to expand CAPS, we had to make families more eligible. And as I mentioned, there are income limits. And so what we did, our entry threshold is usually 50% of the state median income. We increased that to 85%. So just to give you an example, 50% of the state median income for a family of 4 is about $42,000. And we increased that to 85% of the state median income, which is $72,000. So obviously that makes more families eligible. We also increased our very low income priority group. We do have priority groups, and you have to fall into a priority group to be eligible for CAPS, just because of our limitation on how many families we can serve. And so that was also a way to increase eligibility. So we increased that very low income priority group from 50% to 150% of the federal poverty level. And just to put that in real terms, for example, a family of 4 at 50% of FBL would make $13,250 to be eligible. And now they can make up to $39,750 to be eligible. So you can see how we've expanded that. We are serving more children because of that. And we've definitely seen an increased demand for our CAPS given that. If we go to the next slide, I'm going to talk quickly about the federal funding that Georgia has received as a result of COVID. All states have received this, recognizing the importance of childcare for working families, for child development, and the impact of the pandemic on childcare. On this slide, it shows you what we've received. We've received money from the CARES Act, from the SRSA Act, and from the American Rescue Plan. And the federal government, intended these funds to mitigate the negative impacts of COVID, to stabilize childcare. I will tell you, in Georgia, childcare is stabilized when you look at the number of childcare programs that were open pre-pandemic and currently, but they are definitely facing challenges with enrollment and recruitment and retention of teachers. But the good news is we have not lost a number of childcare programs like many states have. This funding was also intended to support families' access to high quality childcare. As we know, incomes have been impacted. And then of course, to support the workforce that actually teaches and cares for children in these programs. If you look at the right, this shows you what we received from each of those pots of money, a total of $2.1 billion. And we have obligated $1.6 billion. And I'll talk on the next few slides about how we have obligated and are spending those dollars now. On the next slide, this is our biggest funding project. It is called STABLE, Short-Term Assistance Benefit for Licensed Entities. And we have devoted more than $1 billion of this $2 billion for STABLE. And it's, again, intended to stabilize childcare in Georgia. These grants go directly to licensed childcare programs. Right now, we are in what we call STABLE Forward, and we have obligated $860 million to licensed childcare providers. They get these on a monthly basis. That began November of 2021, and we will continue these monthly payments through September of 2023. Before that, we did STABLE rounds 1, 2, and 3, and we distributed $165 million to licensed childcare providers. Now, again, this is one-time funding, but it is going to the intended purpose and helping to stabilize childcare. And I think this funding has definitely helped with that, given our numbers of actual childcare providers that remain open. If we go to the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about caps. I've talked a little bit about some of these. So access, of course, we're using our federal dollars on access to pay the full tuition for families that are receiving caps. We've also expanded the 10,000 scholarships, and we're also increasing our quality rated bonus payments. So we require any childcare program that serves children on caps to be quality rated, but we also know quality costs more. And so we did increase those to incentivize and help them maintain their quality rated status. Early in the pandemic, we provided essential services workforce scholarships for those essential workers that had to be at work so that they could pay for childcare during that time. And then we have some emergency payment policies that are in place. For example, we're paying based on enrollment rather than attendance so that these providers have this continued flow of income from caps if the children who have caps are either attending or maybe absent due to some type of COVID-related issue. On the next slide, these are our power payments, which are directly benefiting our workforce for recruitment and retention. As I mentioned, there's always been an issue with recruitment and retention for childcare workforce, but it's definitely been intensified due to the pandemic. This stands for providing our workforce essential recognition. We have obligated $100 million for these payments, and these work very similarly to what K-12 has received, but these are $1,000 supplemental payments to teachers in childcare, pre-K, Head Start. They will receive a total of $3,000 in these power payments. We did one round last year. We're doing a round right now. It just closed on Friday, and we'll do another round in the spring of 2022, hoping to retain the workforce that is already working in childcare. And we hope to have some actual data once we finish up the second round on if it has actually worked for retention purposes. And then on the next slide, just real quickly, at the very beginning of the pandemic, as you'll remember, there were lots of virtual schools and virtual options for public schools. But we also know that many parents couldn't make that work. And so a lot of these students did attend childcare while doing their virtual learning. And so we provided about $5 million in grants directly to childcare just to help them with training and with resources and materials to support these students who are doing virtual learning while in their childcare business. That's not something that they do on a regular basis, so they appreciated this additional financial and professional development help. And then on the next slide, as you saw in the beginning, we do have about $400 million to obligate. And so on the next slide, this kind of outlines our next steps. We did just conduct stakeholder engagement with our providers and our families and our teachers. And so we'll be using those to make our final decisions in the next month or two on how we spend the additional dollars, and look for student parents to be included in that, specifically TCSG. Now I'll go on to my budget, which should be much quicker, but I'll stop there in case you have any questions. I know that was a lot.
Right now, we don't have any questions from the committee, so why don't we go ahead and move to the budget?
Yes, sir. So we are on, we're section 22, page 37. The first section is 22.1 childcare services. Those first two items are the some of the statewide adjustments, one for the $5,000 cost of living, and the second for the 40 hours of earned annual leave. You will see some small adds there. And the reason for that is we are obviously funded by federal funds, lottery funds, and state general funds. And so this is the portion of state funds that would be needed for those two statewide increases. And then on 22.1.3, this is an add of $3.1 million to maximize available CCDF funds and reflect an adjustment in the FMAP from 66.85% to 66.2%. We received an additional $15 million from CCDF and the FMAP change. So this is the match that is required to draw down the entire amount of federal dollars for this program, which serves CAPS, which and many of our other functions in our agencies that I spoke about. The next change you'll see is in the pre-kindergarten program, which is 22.3, 22.3.1, 0.2, and 0.3. These are all statewide changes. So the $5,000 cost of living adjustment, all the ERS changes, and then the TRS increase. We do have a lot of former teachers that are members of TRS, so that reflects that. These are actual employees of DECAL for the pre-K program. If you look at 22.3.4, this is a reduction of 2.1 million, which is a formula reduction for our training experience for pre-K teachers, we run T&E just like K-12, very similar to how K-12 does. And this just reflects the actual training and experience. We're actually seeing a shortage in pre-K teachers for the first time in a really, really long time. And so this shows the use of substitutes. And so not so many experienced teachers, unfortunately. And then 22.3.5, which we think will help with this, is the increase for the salary adjustment of $2,000 for pre-K teachers and assistant teachers of 19.4 million. And again, we do believe this will help with more recruitment and retention of pre-K teachers, and especially of those assistant teachers who are so important in these pre-K classrooms. That was very quick, but I'm happy to take questions.
Commissioner Jacobs, it looks like you are off the hook. There's no questions at this time, but I do reserve, if it's okay, if you could coordinate with Sarah,
Yes.
me and Molly.
Sure.
We'd love to get with your group later this week or next week. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
very
Thank you.
much.
Department of Education. Is that virtual or in person? Oh, we're in person. Okay. Would you like the podium or the table? Okay.
Thank you, Chairman Jones, members, for opportunity to present the Department of Education's FY23 budget. I'm Russ Rome. I'm the Chief Financial Officer. Okay. First, we've got a few increases in our budget across programs, similar to Commissioner Jacobs. The increase in the $5,000 salary for benefit eligible employees, the 40 hours earned leave for accrued leave. You'll see the employees' retirement system adjustments throughout our budget. And now I'll just focus on some of the changes within the programs. In our ag ed program, you'll see 24.1.6. There's an increase of funds to adjust the state salary base for certified teachers and certified employees by 2,000 effective September 1st, 2022. You'll also see austerity similar to our FY 2022 amended budget restored of about 253,000. Also in our communities and schools, section 24.5.1, there's another austerity restoration of $57,000. In our GNETS program, 24.8.5, you're going to see similar to the ag ed, the increase in funds to adjust the state-based salary schedule for the teacher salaries of $2,000, which is about $1.5 million. You'll also see reduced formula funds for enrollment and T&E decline of about $2.9 million. And then you're also going to see in 24.8.7, the austerity restoration, similar to amended, which is about $2.4 million. Yes, sir.
Chairman Control.
That 24.8.6,
Yes.
how many students does that represent?
About 351.
So a 351 reduction.
Yes.
Do you have any explanation for the decrease in enrollment?
I don't think so. It's kind of been trending down.
So it was something we anticipated in the, okay, thank
For the
you.
last 3 years, it's been
Okay, thank you.
slowly declining.
Thank you.
And then I'll move on to non-QBE 24.11.4. You've got some formula adjustments here. You've got an increase in sparsity grants based on enrollment data of about 480,000. You've got your RTF formula funds increase of about 919,000. And we did utilize a different formula there, which basically you had some growth, and then we tried to do a little better average based on some information we were receiving to get them some funds. And then you'll also see in 24.11.6, the increase for the certified teachers of $2,000 and 24.11.7, which is the same $2,000 for the residential treatment facilities. And both are 353,000 for sparsity and 268,000 for the RTFs. In nutrition, you'll see 24.12.1, 5.4% salary increase. You're also going to see the same in the pupil transportation and 24.14.2. And these are based on the, it's a commensurate with the increase for the teachers. So the 2,000 and the 37,092, it's approximately 5.4%. Also in 24.13 in our preschool disabilities, you're going to see an increase based on formula of 24.13.2 of 597,000. You've got the certified teachers raise of 900,000, and then you've got austerity restorations of about 1.7 million. People transportation, they've got formula growth in 24.14.1 of about 1.9 million. And then, as I said, the 5.4% salary increase. All right. And QBE equalization, 24.15.1. We had a decrease in the formula for equalization grants, which is about $164 million. You've got your adjustment in local 5 mil and 24.16 of about 142 million. That's an increase in local 5 mil. In the QBE program, we've got numerous. I'll run through them quick if we have any questions. These are most of these are formula adjustments within the program. We've got the State Charter Commission school supplement based on 2 new schools and FTE growth of about $35 million. We've got increased funds for the charter system grant based on FTE of about 1.3 million. We've got austerity restorations of about 383 million. We've got the T&E experience of about 43 million. We've got increase for state special charter schools per Senate Bill 153, which is about 4.7 million. We've got to increase funds for local charter school grant, which is about 2.9 million. We've got a reduction in formula funds for newly certified math and science teachers. Here's about 200 less teachers in that program, which is about $115,000. We've got an increase in funds for school nurses based on the formula. Increase in funds for special ed special ed and state institution. And I think that's just an austerity restoration. And then we've got an increase in funds for the state salary schedule for certified teachers, the $2,000 raise for all teachers, which is $287 million. In our RESA program, 24.18.2, we've got enrollment growth of about 225,000. And then we've got the austerity restoration of about 593,000. Next, in our state schools, we've gotten 24.21.7. We've got the state schools getting their $2,000 for their certified teachers raise of about 401,000. We've got the T&E adjustment for their teachers of 138,000. And we have their austerity restoration of 200,000. We've also got funds for major repairs and renovations, which is 24.21.10. And this is normally bond money. I think in lieu of bond monies, we've got approximately $2 million. Then in our CTA EAE program, we've got in 24.22.7, we've got the adjustment for the certified teachers of $2,000. And then we've got the austerity restoration of about $282,000. I believe. Mistaken. So in our 24.24.1 tuition for multi-disabilities, we also have the austerity restoration of 52,000 or 62,000, excuse me. And that's the major changes to our 23 budget, mostly formula and austerity restoration. So.
Mr. Rome, there are no questions right now. Oh, excuse me, Chairman Cantrell.
Sorry to be so picky. Just one question. 24.17.10 says increase funds for special needs. Is that due to, what's that due to?
Oh, this is based on our FY 2022 projections. The SB special needs scholarships that go out. We run projections based on each quarter, and this is what we asked for in the amended to fund.
Yeah, I looked at the numbers from last year, and there was only an increase of 100 applicants last year. I can't do the math in my head as to what that, you'd have a better idea what 100 would translate into, but it doesn't seem like it would translate into that number. But is there a reason to anticipate a larger growth this next year?
Yes, so with the changes from Senate Bill.
Mm-hmm.
So in the second quarter from last year, second quarter we had 4,950 students. already the same program, 5,000 students. So we are seeing growth.
Okay, that's interesting. The numbers I had were like 53 something last year and 50.
Last year, right, so we're looking at, I'm talking about the quarter reports, we're looking at second quarter last year to second quarter this year, trying to compare the quarters to see where we made projections from the second quarter last year, second quarter this year.
So you've seen a fairly significant, I know there was a lot of trouble in the summer because of all the changes and everything. So it didn't happen until the second quarter, basically is what you're saying.
Right.
It makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rome, two quick questions.
Yes, sir.
To Representative Cantrell's question, maybe if we could get maybe a rolling over the last 2 years and where 47 had an implication or not, I think that would help us to understand what are some of those milestones and then the quarter over quarter basis that you guys are doing. I think the fact is benchmarking against that makes a lot of sense, and giving that to the committee, I think would help. And Mr. Rome, what I'd like to do is reserve some time with you and a few others on SB 59. I'm still getting emails around the EIP, and I want to make sure that there was no unintended consequences of 59. And if there are, what is it that we can do right now in order to make sure we don't have those moving forward? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rome.
Thank you.
Representative Cantrell made a great point. In case you didn't hear it, he did say it was a Senate bill. So I do agree the lower chamber may have failed. Moving on, Employees Retirement System of Georgia. Thank you, Mr. Rome.
Morning, Mr. Chair, and thank you. I'm Jim Potvin. I'm the Executive Director of the Employees Retirement System. We are section 25, beginning on, or not just beginning, on page 47. We really only have two programs of note to talk about with you. That is 25.2 and 25.3. We received direct appropriations for the actuarially determined contributions for two of our pension systems, the Georgia Military Pension Fund and the Public School Employees Retirement System. Both of them have modest increases in the ADEC this year, and that's the reason for the changes that you see there. I also want to mention, we've heard from DOE and DECAL, and they've both mentioned ERS, so I thought I would also say a word about the changes that they're referring to. We have two major initiatives that are working their way through the process right now. One is a change to the employer match contribution for GSEPS employees. That's the current tier of the retirement system with the 401k match. We were asked to assist with essentially initiatives that would help improve the recruiting and retention of state employees. We've seen a significant decrease in our membership in recent years, and the difficulties, especially in certain departments with recruiting and hanging on to those employees, has been significant. So we have proposed a significant change to the matching contribution formula, and that is contained within Senate Bill 343. That will require about a 2% increase of 2% of GSEP's member active employee payroll, about $32 million per year, something like that, in order to fund that change. The other significant change is we're going to, for the first time, begin to pre-fund a COLA in the ERS system. This will benefit both current retirees and, of course, future retirees as well, and make the retirement system that much more attractive. Again, in the same vein of trying to be competitive for our employees. And that will cost around $150 million per year, about 6% of payroll. So you will probably hear, all the other agencies talk about that as part of their overall portfolio changes. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Chairman Cantrell.
I'm sorry, does that require any additional input from the employee, or is it completely all on the state?
Which
to
one?
the retirement? Do they have to increase their contribution at all?
No, and for the COLA change, that is entirely on the state.
Sure.
For the 401k change, they have to save at least 5% of their pay. That is not different from today, when the maximum match is also achieved by saving 5%.
Okay, thank you.
One quick question.
Yes, sir.
So we're seeing at my company, so I'm in tech. Normally, someone with 5 years experience has anywhere between maybe 125 to 175 base. That base over the last year and a half has moved easily to 2, if not 225. Are you guys even able, and with all due respect to a retirement system and a pension, are we able to hold IT resources here in the state?
I can only speak for my
Yeah.
agency. I will say the impression I have is that we are significantly under market with respect to pay. I should also point out that the changes that we're proposing as a retirement system are just part of an overall package, right? That's been proposed by the governor and others. So we're just trying to do our part there.
Yeah, I understand.
But
It's-
yes, we do feel the pressure on a salary basis for sure.
Okay, great. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? We appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you. Next up is the Georgia Professional Standards Commission. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Matt Arthur. It's good to be here.
Let's see.
Good to see you again. You'll find us on page 51, section 27. I'm not gonna go back over the statewide changes. We do appreciate the pay raise and the focus, of course, on the last item. And where I want to really focus at is the recommendation of 182,000, which I believe last year you all put in. So I want to give you some background on where we're at with that. What did we do with that money? And in reality, this is for 2 positions. And to avoid any confusion, it'd be great if it was reworded. We are working with your House Budget Office right now. Troops to Teachers is a federal program, and that's something we just don't want them to get confused with what we do, even though that's where the money is being spent right now. You know, we had a Troops to Teachers grant until the federal government did away with it. And so this replacement funds has allowed us to continue the important work. We're working very closely with 6 military bases right now. The only one we're not working with is Dobbins to date, and we're working with them. And we have placed 296 former military members in over 60 school systems right now over the last year. And we feel like that's tremendous. And as we work with them and their spouses, we look for those numbers just to continue to go up. The additional positions that the governor's recommending, a recruiter and a certification evaluation specialist, we're going to be able to provide the same level of support to their spouses that we do with the military members and promote the recruitment of minorities into teaching. All of this goes right along with the governor's pipeline bill that was passed last year. And as we form closer partnerships with school system recruiters and target high need systems, we appreciate the support for the governor's budget recommendation from you all. I want to talk about a little bit that's unrelated to the budget. And we have an initiative going right now with our HBCUs across the state. And the focus is on the preparation program, effectiveness, outcomes, and exploring new strategies and practices to increase participation and completion of those programs at HBCUs. And we're seeing an increase in at least one of those HBCUs already. And I am very happy to announce, but because of this initiative that we have more and more colleges taking part in, Morehouse is beginning their first education program in a long, long time. And we look for completion of that over the next few years, but they are seeking approval right now to offer teacher preparation. And that is just outstanding. And both of these initiatives, both the military and their spouses and the minority recruitment, are all part of the governor's pipeline bill that we're taking part in. Right now in the state of Georgia, we've got over 107,000 teachers that are with FTEs across the state. We've got close to another 50,000 of support staff. That would be guidance counselors, media specialists, assistant principals, academic instruction, et cetera. And so those numbers are around 150,000 in the state. Over the last 4 years, where have we seen the shortages at? Because I know you all are hearing that. So we do a survey, and looking at that survey, the top 4 shortage areas: elementary ed, English language arts, special ed, and math. And the question always comes up, why elementary ed? We produce more elementary ed teachers than anywhere else. Well, elementary ed teachers have a huge skill set, and they're hired in a lot of different areas besides going into education. And we see a lot of that, but those are the top 4 areas right now. Now, some of the regions of the state, it varies. We've got one region that showed a PE has been one of their top 4 over the last 5 years. But overall, when you take the 16 area RESA's groups and look at where they're at, those are the top 4 areas where where they are really hurting for teachers. And we are working hard at communicating with our school systems out there. We send publications out all the time. We do webcasts. Right now, we just put into mode this week a ethics module for paraprofessionals. We've seen a huge rise with the hiring of paraprofessionals, and they really didn't have an ethics module that went along with that. So we, along with RESA's, have written a new one, and that is kicking in this week. And so any questions that I can answer for you, I'll be glad to.
Mr. Arthur, I think you're off the hook, but thank you so much for bringing the color in addition to the finance. We sure do appreciate that. Thank you. Next is the Office of Student Achievement. Ooh.
Good morning.
Good
So
morning.
good to see you all again. Thank you for coming out in the rain. Beautiful sunny day in Georgia. I'm going to begin with the budget, which is found at 27.7. I'm not going to go through the statewide changes. I just want to thank you for your past support for GOSA. You have put in some money that has made a lot of difference. And so I think that Sarah and Molly passed out a PowerPoint. This, and I'm just going to go through a couple of updates for brevity's sake. So with regard to one of the increases that we got last year, we needed 900,000 for licenses for the Georgia awards. And so we negotiated an unlimited licensing package with that infusion of money. And so on page 9, you will see kind of a definition of what Georgia Awards is. It's the 7 agencies of education plus labor. And I'll tell you, it's another update. We've been really socializing this a lot this year. Many sectors can use this data and they don't know about it. So it's, we're finding it's kind of the best kept secret. And so economic developers, chambers of commerce, we've had social settings with those individual chambers throughout the state. We want to do more of that as time goes on. Any questions on that? On the Georgia School Leadership Academy, which began in 2018, we have 3 cohorts of, well, actually 4 cohorts, newly inducted teachers, teacher leaders, aspiring principals, and principals. Since that time, we've had 28 principals, aspiring principals, become principals. And so we are training hundreds of teachers every year. This is especially important to the pipeline issue. Newly inducted teachers, one of the main things that they say in surveys is that they need mentorship. And so with the coaching and the mentorship that this program provides, we think it'll make a huge difference with retention. Of course, the program's too young still to really look at that retention rate, but beginning next year, we can. And then on page 8, you'll see some of the strong partnerships that we've acquired through the Governor's School Leadership Academy. On Governor's Honors Program, as Chairman England once said, this is probably the most popular program in the state of Georgia. And some of you and your colleagues have attended in the past 58 years. This will be our 59th year in 2022. As you know, we had to cancel because of COVID in 2020. We have a strong group of alumni and others who have come together and formed a steering committee to actually raise money to augment the program. It allowed the juniors, rising juniors who couldn't attend in 2020 to attend last year. One of the main new parts of this program is this is the first year in 2022 that we are aligning with business needs. And so, Chairman, I think this will be fond to your heart. We are including computer science and cybersecurity for the first time. And as you know, in cybersecurity, 17,000 jobs are currently available in Georgia. And so a lot of students don't realize that, and they're good paying jobs. And so we want to start as early as possible with the most gifted students that we have in Georgia. And when you have 650 for 4 weeks, we want them to be exposed to the kinds of jobs that are available in Georgia. Along those lines, we'll have the first ever college and career night during the program. On page, gosh, these pages are misnumbered, but growing readers is the next thing that I will mention. And thank you again for the infusion of funds for this very needed program. As you know, the schools of ed typically do not teach all teachers how to instruct children to read. And so I know that the university system is working on that, and there are some pilots, and the Deal Center is evaluating those programs now. Growing Readers has been around since for the last 7 years. And so in the 6th year of evaluation, we're showing tremendous gains in K-3 reading. This kind of coaching and pedagogy for teachers is highly needed. So this is an update for this year. We have partnered with the Cox campus through the Atlanta Speech School for content. And we get this question a lot. Are you aligned with the sciences of reading? Absolutely. But I would say the pedagogy and the engagement of children is an added benefit with the Growing Readers program. So content rich with phonics and phonemic awareness with the Cox campus partnership. So more to come on that. And then I think those are my updates. If you have any questions, I'm happy to talk one-on-one or now.
Love to catch you later on just because of timing, but real quick, just keep this in mind. What I'd love to see is the proficiency in 3rd grade reading based on young readers. Since we've had the program since 2015, maybe there's some data that we'd be able to share with the committee. So hopefully there's a positive upward right trend to that data. Okay, great.
And we're happy to share that.
Right, that'd be terrific. I think that's something that the committee sure would appreciate. At this time, there are no questions. Thank you so much, Ms. Hawkins. We sure do appreciate it. And the anchor leg is TRS and my former superintendent, Dr. Buster Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the community. I am Buster Evans, Teachers Retirement System of Georgia, and I promise you, I will be brief. And the good news is the only change in the budget takes about 5 seconds. But since I am here to tell you about Teachers Retirement System, just a few things very quickly. We do serve over 400,000 active and retired members, roughly 140,000 retirees. All of these people really, really value their participation in Teachers Retirement System because in many ways it helped to encourage them in the area of recruitment and being recruited into the profession, as well as to staying a full career in the profession. We just completed in the area of our return on our investments, the best year since we've had since 1986 with returns of 29.2%. Now, thus far, this fiscal year is not quite as good. But it's also not as bad as what I hear some people saying, but it was a great year for us with assets for the first time exceeding $100 billion. The last couple of things that trends that I would mention, because some of you have asked and called me about these trends. First of all, in the area of the number of retirees, are we seeing more people retiring? Well, the reality is we've not seen more retirees up until this point. The last 2 years, we've actually seen lower than normal numbers of retirees. I think the major reason for this has been the salary increases that you have proposed and that you've given to our teachers. Has kept them in because they can stay in for 2 or 3 years and maximize their retirement a little bit. I also think it's indicative of the quality of the professionals that we have teaching in Georgia. They've not bailed out. And I think that's a great thing as well. Now, I will say that I think that we are seeing a lot of activity now during what I would call leading indicators. It's tough in the classroom. From when I talk to administrators and teachers, they are feeling the challenges. So we're seeing some early indicators or leading indicators that we may have a little bit of bump this year. But with our January 1 retirees, we actually had fewer retirees on January 1 than we did the previous year. So to this point, no big jump in our retirees. Secondly, and this is a somewhat of a morbid statistic, we have seen increases in death rates among our retirees as well as our active members. We've been tracking those since the beginning of the pandemic, and we can tell you to the month, whether you're a vaccine or not a vacciner, we can tell you to the month when the vaccines began to be being administered based on reduction in death rates. So we thought that was an interesting statistic, and we'll be doing more data on that as we wrap up this year. One thing that I am really pleased that we've tried to do, we've not just sat still and not tried to innovate. We've actually opened the first satellite office that we've ever opened in Macon to serve our members in the central and southern part of the state. The crazy thing is we have people choosing to drive to Macon for retirement counseling as opposed to coming to our offices on the north side of town. And if you try to leave here like I'm going to do in a few minutes and travel northward, you understand why they may prefer to go to Macon as opposed to going north. In the area of our budget, 45.1.1 will show a reduction of $40,000 from $155,000 to $115,000 for FY23. That is a continuing declining number. 2 or 3 years from now, you won't even have to have me down here to give you this report because it will all be gone, as we will be only being funded by funds within the teachers retirement system of Georgia. And in conclusion, to answer the chairman's question that he asked my counterpart, Jim Potvin, yes, we have felt the struggles with our IT, not only but our IT, but our financial services people, our accountants, and the people who work in technology. I can give you an example. One of our security architects in our IT side, roughly $128,000 salary, was hired away private industry, $185,000 a year salary, 100% remote. We've had to look at what we're doing as an agency that's not relying totally on state funds. We've had to be a little bit innovative, and I won't apologize for that because we've got a job to do. But we're so thankful for the money that is being passed along in the area of salary increases this year. We'll be able to do some things for our employees that we think will help keep them employed in state service. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions. Otherwise, I know y'all got another meeting that y'all need to get to.
Dr. Evans, there aren't any questions, but I'll probably wrap around with you next week if that's okay, just to get a little extra information about kind of ongoing in terms of what we're doing so I can get to the committee, okay?
Anytime, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Evans.
Thank you.
All right. That closes out the agencies. We're going to move into public comment now. We have 6 people signed up for public comment. In the spirit of brevity, I'm going to go ahead and ask each of you to hold to 3 minutes. I'll raise my right arm when you're at 2:45. That's my polite way of asking you to close your comments as quickly as possible so that we can move on to the next person, if that's okay. So the first person up is Claire Cox. And by the way, if you can just introduce yourself and which organization that you're representing. Thank you. Oh, I'll put on the podium.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you, Chairman Jones, and for the committee for allowing me to speak. My name is Claire Cox, and I'm chair of Georgia STOMP, a statewide coalition formed to address menstrual equity and eliminate period poverty in our state. What started as a grassroots organization and effort in 2017 has grown to 31 organizations with a reach approaching 60,000 in our state. And I'm grateful to be joined this morning by a lot of women from Junior Leagues of Georgia who are here as a part of this coalition. This morning, I want to begin by saying thank you for funding period products in schools in the state of Georgia. Your understanding of the issue of period poverty and its effect on attendance and focus has made a difference in the lives of students in our state. I have the privilege of hearing that from school nurses and administrators that this is true. For the last 3 years, Georgia STOMP has surveyed school nurses in Georgia to learn as much as possible about the distribution of these funds. We know that the money in the state budget has met many needs, but it's still not sufficient for all students in schools. More importantly, and this is what I'm speaking about, in this year's survey, the overwhelming response received addressed the needs for funds to cover younger grades. More than 80% of school nurses in Georgia who responded said that funds are needed for 5th grade students, and almost 50% felt the need for 4th grades. To be clear, the line item in the budget is not restricted by grade, but the Department of Education has allocated the funds to 6th through 12th grade, which leaves many of our elementary schools with no products. Yes, DOE could shift the money around or allocate differently, but we also know from the survey that only 46% of schools said they receive enough money at the current budget level. Allocating the same amount of money, including 5th grade, would only make the deficit larger. Georgia STOMP understands and believes there is a role for local school districts and nonprofits to serve in the funding of period products in schools. Many Georgia STOMP member organizations are doing just that. However, when this money was put in the budget in 2019, leadership said that its usage and distribution would indicate the need for period products in Georgia, and the funding could later be adjusted based on that data. We asked that $200,000 be added to the line item for feminine hygiene grant in the 2023 budget. That amount would, in essence, fund products for 5th graders at the same level that the state is currently funding 6th through 12th. I'm happy to answer any questions and appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning.
Ms. Cox, thank you very much. I don't see any questions right now. Thank you so much. Jody Reeves.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for letting me come in to address you this morning. I'm Jody Reeves. I'm the Executive Director for Georgia Association for Career and Technical Education. And I'm representing today over 700,000 students in Georgia who do take a CTAE class, over 11,000 teachers and school counselors, as well as a lot of school leaders who are also a member of our association. Thank you for your continued support. We believe in the premise that all students are career-focused students. We sent you a letter that referenced bond number 5, line 50.2.3.5, and it is related to the construction-related equipment. These are bonds that are sold to help fund equipment in newly constructed and newly renovated career technical and ag education labs. The governor proposed funding at $2.27 million, but our actual ask is around $7.3 million. So we're asking you to consider increasing your contribution so that we are able to meet the needs for all of our students. Chairman Dickey left, but he has several requests in Crawford County. Chairman Jones, the Alliance Academy, a lot of the equipment that you've seen there came from these construction-related equipment bonds. Over the past 10 years, around 75% of our school systems have received funding for this. And this is to make sure that our students are learning in labs that replicate what they will see out in industry so they can earn their industry credentials. We appreciate the support that you give for career technical and agriculture education in Georgia. We are second to none across the state. So thank you for your continued support, and thank you for helping us ensure that we do have a well-educated and well-prepared workforce in the state of Georgia. And on that note, one of the requests is from Gwinnett County, which is doing the artificial intelligence school, as well as several other information technology labs. So Chairman Jones, we are working hard to try to make sure that we have curriculum out there so that students earn the credentials so that they can go to work and fill some of these gaps. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Reeves, and no questions at this time.
Thank you.
Lauren Crabtree.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. So I'm Lauren Crabtree, and I am the principal at Youth Villages Inner Harbor. We are a residential treatment facility in Douglasville. And so I believe some of you may have experienced an opportunity to come tour our campus, but if you haven't, definitely let me know and I would welcome you to come and tour anytime. So Youth Villages Inner Harbor, like I said, is a residential psychiatric treatment facility. And we take some of Georgia's most difficult and challenging youth who are placed with us who can't attend their local schools. Some of them have challenges that include like extreme aggression, defiant behaviors, problem sexual behaviors, suicidal, self-harming, emotional disturbances. And our facility serves kids from ages 6 to 17. So we are a K through 12 school, and essentially our kids are hospitalized while they're with us working on their mental health treatment. So today I am here to request your support for our students and our teachers in our fully accredited school. So Youth Villages Inner Harbor, like I said, we serve K through 12, and my current team is 15 teachers. They are highly qualified, and most of them are actually certified in both gen ed and special ed. So I'm always looking for ways to keep my wonderful team with us. We are a Cognia SACS accredited school, and we have been since the late 70s. We just recently went through our accreditation, our reaccreditation, and I will brag a little bit on my team. We were awarded the Cognia School of Distinction Award for 2021. So I was very proud of them and Cognia recognizing us for the great work we're doing. So please, I would like you to support line 24.11.5, which is the governor's inclusion of the 919,000 to adjust the attendance in the non-QBE formula grant. These grants help us to serve our students by providing qualified educators and instructors and staff into our schools. I'd also ask you to support 24.11.7, which is the governor's proposed increase of $2,000 for our certified teachers and our certified employees in the amount of $268,000. This raise would help to keep the certified and highly qualified teachers in our residential treatment facilities and serving some of the state's most vulnerable children. So we are grateful for your leadership and addressing our formula for these non-QBE grants and helping us to be a little bit more predictable with our annual funding and what we're getting. So thank you again for your time. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
No questions right now, Ms. Crabtree, but I'd like to recognize our finance staff. They did a lot of work to try and make sure the RTF formula was, to your point, much more predictable. So kudos to our staff. I think they did a great job.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Crabtree. Helen Sloat.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Helen Sloat. I'm with Nelson Mullins, and we represent Together Georgia, Multi-Agency Alliance for Children, and of course, Youth Villages. And I'm going to be really short because I think Lauren did a great job in covering everything this morning. But we would also echo your support for line 24.11.5 for the $919,000, and again for the raise for the teachers and the certificate personnel in the amount of $268,000. And again, I will also say thank you, Sarah, and the team at the House Budget Office and your leadership, Mr. Chairman, and the committee on working on the formula issues. We really appreciate all the work that went in to improving that formula, along with the Senate Budget Office and the OPB, and of course, the department. Thanks so very much.
Okay.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
No questions right now. Thank you so much.
Right.
I might mess this up. Is it Joel McKee? Okay, we'll put him on deck. Dr. Jones.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm trying to put this book up here. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the House Appropriations Education Subcommittee. I would like to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address you all this morning. My name is Dr. Vonette Jones. I'm a pediatrician of the Daffodil Pediatrics in Clayton County, and I'm here today advocating on behalf of the Reach Out and Read program of Georgia, an organization that I'm passionate about for the past 12 years. I want to enthusiastically share the benefits of partnering with pediatricians to help promote early brain development, positive interactions between a parent and their child, and routines incorporating reading as a daily activity. Reach Out and Read is implemented in 170 hospitals, practices, home visiting programs, and clinics in 70 counties across Georgia, serving over 156,000 children and families. Demand is strong for the program, with 114 applications in process for participation in the program. Reach Out and Read trains pediatricians to incorporate culturally, developmentally, and linguistically appropriate books during the well visit checkups from ages 6 months to 5 years of age. On average, a child will visit their pediatrician 15 times prior to their 5th birthday, building a home library of up to 15 books. These checkups offer a unique opportunity for the pediatrician to use a children's book to model read out loud strategies with young parents and help build a child's healthy brain. More importantly, the books serve as a developmental assessment tools to assess milestones with young children. If I had to choose, I would rather enter a room with a new book versus a stethoscope, because how the child and how the parent interacts with the book offers firsthand insight into curiosity, hand-eye coordination, and other developmental measures. What happens during the first 5 years sets the stage for the rest of a child's life. Spending time together with reading aloud helps to create strong parent-child bonds and promotes healthy brain development. Children that read too often have improved language and listening skills, experience stronger emotional connections with their loved ones, and gain a lifelong love of reading. More than 80% of a child's brain is formed in the first 3 years, and what they experience during this window can irreversibly affect how the brain develops. Attention and nurturing for a loving parent or caregiver supports healthy brain development. One of the best ways to engage young children is to read books together. On behalf of Reach Out and Read Georgia, we are asking for $350,000 in funding for the FY 2023 budget to support extending our reach out to the 17,500 low-income children and families in rural and underserved areas of our state. Nationally, 4.7 million children have served by Reach Out and Read, and there are 22 research studies speak to the effectiveness of this program. Reach Out and Read is frequently called the intersection of health and education, is a bipartisan issue that we all can agree on. Thank you for your service and considering of our request.
Dr. Jones, thank you so much. We share your love of birth to 4 and making sure that we're doing something about it. So thank you. There's no questions from the committee right now.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Have a great day.
Not seeing any other business in front of the committee right now. The Appropriations Subcommittee on K-12 is adjourned 10:10. Thank you so much.